Today, I'm giving you guys a very first look at the Tamagotchi Connection Rainbow Shell as well as the Tamagotchi Original Generation 2 Flower Perfume Shell. Bandai was kind enough to send me these Tamagotchis an entire month before they come out in the United States. And to my understanding, I'm the only person who currently has the Tamagotchi Connection Rainbow Shell. At least, that's the case at the time of recording. This video is going to be a little bit longer than my typical ones usually are just because we have so much to talk about. So get comfy, grab some popcorn, and let's talk about the new Tamagotchi Connection. The first thing that I'll tell you is that the packaging is so nice. If you're old enough to remember how the Tamagotchi Connection version 3 was originally packaged in that very tough, very sharp plastic, this is nothing like that. The new Tamagotchi Connection comes in a very soft paper packaging that is collector friendly. The soft, high quality paper is much easier to store than plastic. When unboxing the new Tamagotchi Connection, make sure you don't throw the packaging away because on the side of the box there's a special secret code, but we'll talk more about that later. Inside the packaging you will receive the Tamagotchi toy as well as an instruction manual, and there's another secret code within the instructions, so don't throw that away either. So my very first impressions of the Tamagotchi Connection are really good. This is what the rainbow shell looks like. The shell is red with a printed design that kind of fades away along the edges, but I don't mind it so much. Unlike the V3, this Tamagotchi Connection has a plastic reset button, and like the K-tie, it also has a third piece antenna at the top. The rainbow shell is incredibly vibrant and the back plate is so nice. To start up your Tamagotchi Connection, you will pull out the tab and be greeted with a brand new egg. One new feature is that you can actually pick between Japanese and English upon startup. Despite the rainbow shell being exclusive to the global release, if you're a Japanese player, you can still play it in Japanese, no problem. Other than that, it is pretty much the same. You get to pick the date and time, you set your birthday, and instead of a username, you now have a nickname. Currently, Bandai has said that there is no plans to get Tamatown like in the original V3. If you're someone that has never played with the Tamagotchi Connections before, you will be really pleased to know that you can name your Tamagotchi. You can choose up to 5 letters and symbols. For this very first run, I will introduce you to Happy. By checking the main menu, you will see all of her stats as well as the fact that she is in fact a girl. In comparison to the V3, the training bar as well as the gotcha points are now on one page. Also like the V3, you will have a couple of different kinds of foods that you can use without running out in quantity. As always, you can buy more food in the shop, but we'll talk more about that in a moment too. Another thing that I've noticed very early on is that the contrast seems to be slightly darker. It could just be my imagination, but it definitely seems that way. As your Tamagotchi grows, you will get access to more games. The very first one that you get is, of course, Get. Literally, the game is called Get. I have super fond memories of playing this game as a child on the original Tamagotchi version 3, so I'm very happy that it made a comeback. Not sure if you noticed, but the animations in this Tamagotchi are actually faster than the original V3 ones. Aside from playing games, you also have items, shops, passwords, all of the original things that you remember from the original V3. What's super interesting is that we still have access to the souvenir area, but we don't have Tamatown, so I'm not sure how that's gonna work. You can also donate gotcha points to the king, which is odd because, again, we don't have Tamatown. So let's talk about passwords. The first password that I entered was the one that I saw on the side of the box, and by entering this code, I received an umbrella. For every different shell pattern, there is also a corresponding item code on the side of the box. If you have a keen eye, you will notice that the infrared port at the top seems to be slightly more translucent than the original Tamagotchi Connection V3 and K-ties were. One of my favorite things about the Tamagotchi Connection has always been the really cute pixelated animations, which is why I am so excited that there are now C-button animations with every single character in this Tamagotchi Connection re-release. Although present on the Tamagotchi K-tie, it was not a thing on the version 3. The new Tamagotchi Connection re-release really is a blend of the K-tie and V3. Another thing I've noticed is that there are now 2 little Z's when your Tamagotchi sleeps as opposed to 1. Honestly, I'm not sure if that's a new feature or what, but I felt like it was worth mentioning. So let's take a look at what this Tamagotchi looks like directly next to a K-tie. The biggest difference that I noticed is just the infrared port. The second biggest difference that I noticed was that the tab slot is slightly wider on the re-release. When Happy evolved into the child stage, it got 100 gotcha points. And she also unlocked a brand new game called Bump, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. Before we get too deep into the child stage, let's talk about secret shop codes. If you are one to thoroughly read your instruction manual, you will see that you are given a secret code. Something that Raw Tamazone noticed when he opened his Tamagotchi Connection early was that you can actually enter all of the same shop codes that you were able to enter on the original Tamagotchi version 3. Please note, however, this only only works for the secret shop codes. This does not work for the password codes. Yes, sadly, you cannot get the Hello Kitty item from the K-Tai on this version. We have tried. Just like with the V3, if you type in all 7 codes, you will get the Ho-Ho-Chi costume. Just make sure that you retype that code after you get the costume to get whatever your last item is. The only item that'll cost you is the love potion. So now let's talk about the game Bump. Bump is a staple of the Tamagotchi Connection series. It has been a fan favorite for a very long time. And you want to know what? This version actually makes it easier to play. Let me explain. The programming in the new Tamagotchi Connection makes this much easier to understand. They now tell you when to press the button immediately as opposed to you having to wait for a moment, and on top of that, you can press the B button again to skip the animations. My tip for you is, as always, make sure your Tamagotchi weighs a lot before you play Bump because you'll have a better chance of winning. Since Happy is only a child, she had a bit of trouble with this, but she was able to win 240 Gotchi points, so it's not all that bad. Another difference that I've noticed is that the idle animations appear much more often than they did with the V3. I oftentimes find myself looking over at Happy and she's doing cartwheels. These have been my initial thoughts. Thank you so much to Bandai Namco and Tamagotchi for sending me the Connection early, and I'll see you guys next time.